seat there when we play on defense.
Ace the Great. Ace the Great.
Starboy in the building. Come on, defense. Let's go. Squad. Squad. Yeah, them boys coming to get you, they gon' hit you. Yeah, they hit you guaranteed, they gon' split you. Yeah. Squad. Squad. Yeah, them boys coming to get you, they gon' hit you. Yeah, they hit you guaranteed, they gon' split you. Yeah, I'm virgin in this bitch like an animal. Yeah, I be beastin'. Here I be feasting. Yeah, we be eating. Call me Big C then, but we play on defense. When you step up on the field, better prepare for the slaughter. Someone call his mom, his wife, and his daughter. Cause we hit hard, like some hitters, knocking at your starters. Only send out the real ones that don't bother. Now you looking scared and you nervous. Linebackers point them out, D-line air them out. Might as well send out your punt team, bring out our offense. With the defense clocked in, we be killing. Byron Jones gone, Jeff Heath gone. Who we got left? We screaming next man up, ha ha, next man up. Any one of y'all.
I call that best nigga get freaky like Ziggy. Cowboys. We tell that another, you know we not fighting. We them boys. It's 31 day out, we the American team. Fuck all the 31 day out, we the American team. We the boys.
Call me Star Boy, but you can call me Star Lord. The picture's so hard that all you see is stars, boy. Now you screaming, oh Lord, all I see is stars. Look at his wrist, look at his chest, look at his grip, look at his fist. Stars, stars, stars. And I rep it the meanest. Swear to God I'm the cleanest. Cause I got my Pumas on, custom jersey on, got some stars on. Yeah, they call me Hood Rich Superstar. Over Jerry Jones, gas going wrong like Jason Witten without his helmet on. Oh, I can eat up the competition like Z. That's 21 Savage. I put them dreads on, they call me Cold Billy. Yeah, I drip that sauce, had them haters lost. Hey.
I call that best nigga get freaky like Ziggy. Cowboys. We tell that another, you know we not fighting. We them boys. It's 31 day out, we the American team. Fuck all the 31 day out, we the American team. I call that best nigga get freaky like Ziggy. Cowboys. We tell that another, you know we not fighting. We them boys. It's 31 day out, we the American team. Fuck all the 31 day out, we the American team.
Whoa, I thought I got a win-win-win. Hard hitters in the game, hard hitters on the pitch, hard hitters tailgating with a cowboy set. Throw a fist in the air, we try to represent. We about to run through the Bengals, we about to run through the vines. We ate up some skin, I'm calling them Jerry Jones. They think that we lying, we think we not even trying. This is straight for this bird, that's why them Eagles ain't blind. When the hood get worse, sometimes I'm near to the Giants. Field goal a point from the line, take the whole team on the dime. Yeah, they deep in the blind, yeah, we them boys, that's like D every time.
I call that best nigga get freaky like Ziggy. Cowboys. We tell that another, you know we not fighting. We them boys. It's 31 day out, we the American team. Fuck all the 31 day out, we the American team. I call that best nigga get freaky like Ziggy. Cowboys. We tell that another, you know we not fighting. We them boys. It's 31 day out, we the American team. Fuck all the 31 day out, we the American team. We them boys.
They say, defense wins championships. We're here in Dallas. We got a top 10. When the hot boys hit the field, this is what we tell them. Listen what we tell them. This is what we tell them. Go to work, clock in. Yeah, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to work. Yeah, it's time to go to work. See, clock in. Yeah, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to work. Yeah, it's time to go to work. Down clock in, clock in, clock in, clock down, clock in, clock in, clock in, clock down, clock in, clock in, clock in, clock in, clock in. Yeah, it's time to go to work. See my defense, they on the field right now. Yeah, my defense, they yelling 3 and now. Yeah, my defense, they don't like your quarterback. So my defense all trying to get them sacks with the ball in the air. Secondary go to work. Byron Jones, he be there, he be lying, he be lurking. If you get past him, just keep don't hurt him. Put the ball down, go ahead and run it. I got a hot front four when they coming. Yeah, plus we got the best linebacker duo in the whole NFL. We the hot boys sizzling on fire. Come to give your team head. Clock in, yeah, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to work. Yeah, it's time to go to work. See, clock in, yeah, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to work. Yeah, it's time to go to work. Go defense, defense, go defense, defense, go defense, defense. Clock in, yeah, it's time to go to work. I know I said at the beginning of this track, man, they had like a top 10 or like a top 5. Hot boys, iron on me, triple D, you know what I'm saying? Clock that, let's do it. Listen what the hot boys tell me. Put me in, coach. Yeah, we all hard hitters. Smell fresh meat. Yeah, we all eating. Put me in, coach. Yeah, we all hard hitters. Smell fresh meat. Yeah, we all eating. Put me in, coach. Yeah, we all hard hitters. Yeah, I smell fresh meat. Yeah, we all eating. Clock in, yeah, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to work. Yeah, it's time to go to work. See, clock in, yeah, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to work. Yeah, it's time to go to work. Down clock in, clock in, clock in, down clock in, clock in, clock in, down clock in, clock in, clock in, clock in. Yeah, it's time to go to work. See the star on the field, you gon' meet D-Law. Thinking you an outlaw, we sending the predator. Jalen Smith scoop up the whole field, so how you gon' play it, bruh? If you release your dogs, we got a wolf hunt. LVE, tackling Dutchman coming. If you hungry and trying to eat like Zeke, we'll send in the taco to sweep you off your feet. Now you deep in the woods. Plus we got a couple Collins. They say time and pressure make diamonds. The hot boy shining. Clock in, yeah, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to work. Yeah, it's time to go to work. Clock in, yeah, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to work. Yeah, it's time. 100% clock in time. Yo, what's up, everybody?
It's that time.
That time. A little early. I couldn't let the music go any further, man. I was just getting too excited for this. Shout out to our boy Starboy for providing the music for the show.
Yeah.
Much appreciated, man. You can check him out on Spotify. That's where I'm streaming from right now. But at any rate, thanks again, everybody, for showing up today. Today is day 1 of Square Groupers. Myself, the Cannabis Cowboy, your boy BG. We're here to help you out with all kinds of stuff, give you a bunch of information. Hopefully you'll enjoy yourself for the next hour or so. But I will say something right off the bat. Going with what we've been talking about for the last few days, and I know Barry's pointed you guys in the direction of that the Netflix documentary. I have got here a 20 milligram edible. Shout out to my neighbors C&J for hooking me up with some of these. I'm just going to eat it right now. And we're going to see. Oh my God, it's so good. It's grape. Must have made it with that grape Kool-Aid. God, it's so good.
So you have to do this, even though you know I couldn't get any. Now you're going to throw it in my face. That's how we're going to start this off. Okay, Bob. I see which way we're going here.
I figured it's safer for me to be a guinea pig on a live show than someone who hadn't done it before. So,
that's called social proof. I got you.
At any rate, we're gonna see exactly how I am at the end of this this whole broadcast. I'm 6'3", about 200 pounds. 20 milligrams of this really shouldn't do a whole hell of a lot to me, but we'll see. I'm probably going to be smoking a little bit from my Puffco. Go ahead and check out my my video I did on that on YouTube, and I've got a big ass cone up here too. So we're ready to roll. BG, let's do this, man.
Yeah, man. Welcome everybody to the show. Square Groupers, see you in the square. We're just in that group called OAT, man. So we appreciate all of y'all that's from OAT hanging out. Although we are a family-friendly show here, we're not just strictly down to the Cowboys, even though you can see Bob and I are flaming diehard Cowboy fans. So we will tend to get off subject and on a soapbox, I will assure you during the show. But we want to welcome everybody today. How many folks we got online, man? Who we got going on with us early, man? Let's welcome them on as early adopters, man.
We got about 12 on, and I'll tell you what, it's always the usual suspects every day clocking in. Bobby McLean, what is up, my friend? I hope you're enjoying that jersey. Andrew Pace, a.k.a. Mercenary for Hire. How you doing, my brother? Always good to see you, my friend. Always good to see you, just like the last 15 years or so. Brandon Reddick, one of the OGs, man. Thanks for showing up as always. On the way home from work, clocking in on the road. That is what I'm talking about right now.
That's
Ryan, what's up, dude? Always hanging out, man. See what I'm saying? It's all the usual suspects. Mike Rock and Sarah Berryhill. What is going on?
Hey, what's up, Sarah? Sarah's over there cracking jokes on me about how I don't know how to roll up a blunt. You know what I mean? That's pretty funny. She tagged me in that. So I get down with those that support me. If you haven't figured that out, or support us here at the Square Groupers. So we appreciate all the early adopters getting on board, man. You know what I mean? We're just two guys that love the Cowboys and happen to love cannabis. You know what I mean? At the same time, we bring some unique perspective, as Bob's going to tell you a little bit about his, and I'll share you a little bit with ours. But our main overall goal today is just welcome everybody to the show. Our main talking point today is really just high on edibles. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm going to provide. Bob's going to talk a little bit about what he's going to provide. We're going to answer some questions. We're opening to getting some folks up on board. This is strictly cannabis talk. We're not going to get into too much Cowboys talk unless it's breaking news or, just something like WTF, you know what I mean? But how you feeling over there, Bob?
I'm doing good, man. I was excited. I was thinking about this show today at work, man. Before, when I was clocking in with you this morning, you had your show. I was getting ready to take off and do my thing. I don't have a lot of hours at my work, but I was thinking about it the whole time, just getting my ass kicked, just steadily ladling soups for the masses, or as I like to say, them asses. But I'm doing good today, man. I know that this edible is going to make me feel a little good because it's made out of some good indica wax, but at any rate, let's get into a couple things right now. I wanted to make sure that we let you know that that not only myself, but BG is going to be moderating the Cultivating with the Cannabis Cowboy page on Facebook. So if you happen to see any posts that are sort of in line in the way that Barry does things, because he has a very specific style, and you're starting to say, man, Bob's really biting Barry's shit right here. He's going to put a BG at the end of every one of those things to let you know that it's his content that he's putting out for both of us. I don't want you to think I'm out here trying to ride on his coattails and steal all his fonts and shit.
I mean, your page is the name, you know what I mean? So.
He's workhorse in this, man. I just need y'all to know that. As much as you know, Barry went so hard for OAT. He's going real hard for Bob the Cannabis Cowboy, and I love it. And we got a lot of stuff that we're going to help you out with today. Also, what I'm trying to do is going to be make sure that I'm streaming specifically just to my Cultivating with the Cannabis Cowboy fan page. I know a lot of you folks have seen me post some things to some multiple areas. I don't really want to mess with people's feeds too much. Not to mention, I'm finding that no matter how many times I decide to post something from how many different places, because it's cannabis related, it's not going to hit you as much as everything else. So unfortunately, that's kind of the way it's going to be right now. So we're basically going to be putting out the videos directly to my fan page. I know I did it to my profile and my fan page today, as well as OAT and YouTube, but it's going to be moved over slowly to just the fan page. And basically, we're going to be in here. We're in place for the growing cannabis community, and you could take that as many ways as you want, because it does mean a lot of things. We are growing, we are about cannabis, we are a community, and we are about growing cannabis, and we're about a growing community. There's a lot of stuff that goes along with all that, so we want you to be part of all that right now. It's going to be everything from growing to smoking to laws about toking, and that's what we're trying to hit on right here at Square Groupers. We want to talk a lot about how cannabis affects you, the market, legality, and all that good stuff. So that's pretty much it from on that end. I mean, we're going to get into a couple other things, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody here knew that you're going to be probably having to seek out our content a little bit harder than usual. Now, I just mentioned that Facebook is getting real heavy with Barry and myself being unable to push
and boost any of these posts, because if it has anything to do with cannabis, they simply are not going to boost it. So what we're asking our community, our brothers and sisters out there, is to kind of actively seek us out, actively look for some of the posts on the page. Maybe go to the page once a day and kind of clock in, say hello to us, kind of make us part of your everyday morning, tradition. Whatever you do in the morning, you wake up, you have some coffee, you watch Coffee and Blunts, stop by Bob the Cannabis Cowboy and the Cultivating with the Cannabis Cowboy page and let us know that you're waking up. And from there we can really grow, because until everyone gets legal in all these states, it's going to be real tough for us to boost any of this stuff. And I really think that word of mouth marketing is going to work for us, because our community is really all about passing information around. So hopefully you folks will be able to do that.
Just to piggyback on top of that for the page, make sure on Bob the Cannabis Cowboy Facebook page, as you see, he said, I've been driving that over there because Bob's really focusing on taking his content over there to YouTube. You know what I mean? Because we're so far ahead of the game here at Square Groupers. You are so far ahead of the game when Facebook won't even take your money.
Yeah, they're scared right now, man.
I want you to think about that, because me and Bob over the last few days, y'all, if you follow me on Legacy Group over there, notice you'll see some ads run by us, say sponsored at the top. Well, I'm trying to boost some content, get some clicks, maybe have you purchase a, subscription to Sirius or something like that. You know what I mean? Or, stream some, ESPN Plus or something like that. You can hit me on the DM if you need that. But, you know what I mean? The word of mouth marketing is going to be where it's at. You know what I mean? So, turn on the notifications over there on the page, because I'll be going hard on Facebook. Bob's going to be focusing over there on YouTube. Turn on notifications, engage with everything there. It means like, comment, share, do all that, because not only about boosting and playing, that's not really what it's about here. When you even look at the Facebook, and this is for the technicals that are out there, the creatives that are out there, if you've noticed about Facebook, only about 30% of your audience is going to see your actual content when you post it on your page, if you have a fan page. So if we've got 3,000 people following us, that means what? I don't know, who's a mathematician. Only so many people are going to see that much posting, right? So turn on notifications, engage, and the more you do that, that's going to tell Facebook that's important to you, whether they like it or not, and it's going to have to put it in front of your feed. So please take note of that.
Yeah, they will pay attention to you folks if you guys are jumping and trying to get this information from us. There's a lot of rules that they've thrown against or thrown at folks who try to put cannabis content out there. Basically, they don't want us doing anything other than advocating for legality. They don't want us to talk about a lot of stuff. And the way that we do things here is really in line with the way they want us to do it anyway. So I'm not really worried about anything. There may be some times here and there where they may be, they might get mad that I'm smoking a joint on the internet or on their feeds or whatever. But, I don't think that's going to ban us. But I'm not selling anything. I will not ship you anything illegally. I won't get you all up by doing something like that. And I'm certainly not going to get myself effed up by doing something like that. So just realize that we're trying to keep everything on the up and up. And it's about staying within the laws, because the laws are actually out there kind of protect us, especially when it comes to the cannabis and things of that nature.
And just so you know, I don't even hate to talk the shit into existence, but because what we're doing is so far ahead of the game, we're really on thin ice right now. Like at any moment, this shit could crack, and then you could go, like Bob says, watch Coffee and Blunts. I'm gonna wake up and look. I'm gonna see, wow, I can't post the Cannabis Cowboy. What happened? I'm gonna start freaking out. I mean, they can delete your page like they did mine. Y'all remember me following over there, at the BG page. I mean, I streamed a little bit of an NBA game and they flagged me, but I think because I was doing all that other stuff, they just saying, well, and they were taking my money. So Facebook, you never can tell with them. So if it ever goes out, just know you got Bob's Patreon, my Patreon. That's how we're gonna communicate with you off of this in case it ever goes away. And then he's got his YouTube channel over there. That's where it's at.
100%. Tommy Collins, brother, love the beard. We both got him. Which one are you talking about? We both got him, I think. It's good though. It's all about that. It's all about the beard, man. Keep it on. Keep it going. Grow it out.
Beard gang.
Keep growing, man. So BG, man, we got our show here on Veterans Day, man. Thanks for serving. Thank you so much for serving, and anybody out there who was in the audience right now, if you're serving, if your family served, anyone who has served, thank you so much on this Veterans Day. We appreciate it. We appreciate the ability to be able to speak openly about cannabis without fear of being thrown in jail right now for the kinds of which is just right along the rights of an American, along with fighting for your country. So thank you so much for everything that you've done for us, BG, and everybody else who served.
Appreciate that. And yeah, to all the veterans that are out there today, you heard me there earlier in the morning. Happy Veterans Day to you guys too. There's a big difference. You got to understand the difference between Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and Armed Forces Day. We just talking about veterans today, so celebrate a living or a dead veteran and thank them for their service. That's really all you need to do. But we appreciate that because, you know, when you talk about freedom of speech, we talk about veterans, we talk about choice when it comes to this country. You know what I mean? There's an opioid pandemic that's going on out there, been going on out there, probably not going to stop anytime soon, that's consuming some veterans, where we're talking about this on Veteran Day. And that's kind of the standpoint I wanted to bring some information to you as a 23-year retired veteran, the struggles of my story. You guys that know that have followed me here, you know my story, but just to give you a backstory a little bit about Bob here. We go back to about 2016. You know, Bob and I, you know, have never met yet. You know, it's going to happen real soon, but we've been communicating over the phone and through social media for about 4 years now. And basically it goes back into, you know, nicknaming Bob the historian because he's so damn smart. He had known so much about Dallas Cowboys facts. I said, man, I'm going to call this guy the historian because if I need to know something, which I don't know everything, I'm going to go to him because he probably going to know it. And then we moved on up to try to get him to write some blogs there at OAT because I knew he was a pretty witty guy, but I didn't know he had this ganja god personality that he's got over there. And I think it's just a match made in heaven because I'll tell you guys, we didn't plan on streaming today. It just kind of happened that way, right, Bob?
It did. It did. It was a mixture of you. It was a mixture of West Coast Cowboy who was growing at the time too, who was just like, yo, man, I mean, he hit me up. He posted something on his page one day and was like, anybody who knows how to grow, hit me up. I got a problem. I was like, pfft. I'm like, you fucking kidding me, man? I'm in the middle of all this right now. So we started getting real close about that. And he was like, look, man, you need to get this going, man. You're helping me out, and it's a waste of time. You need to be helping some other people out. So I thought it was a good idea. I certainly didn't think I would fall in love with it the way I have, being in front of the camera. I've always been sort of a radio person, so I've used my voice. I've never liked my face to be out there, but they're attached, so I can't do anything about that. But it's all working out right now. BG,
come on, you know you're gonna have to hit him with one, Bobby. Come on, man.
Boy, I feel like a one-legged cat trying to bury turds on a frozen pond. I tell you what. Yeah, so I made some money in Austin with my Hank Hill, Family Guy. I had a whole bunch of voices I've been doing. I've been in the radio, RTF. I took RTF in school to try and get better. And the only thing that's actually come of it was me doing Hank Hill and other voices on KLBJ in Austin, Texas. So at any rate, you know, I'm sure all my gamer friends who heard me just do that were like, God damn it, there's Bob and fucking Hank Hill again, man. Like there's no one that I know for the last 10 plus years of my life that ever wants to hear that shit ever again. So yeah. But anyway, yeah, that was there's a lot of voices that I do, and that was the reason why I thought, hey, if I can at least get a podcast going. He's like, no, you need to get in front of the camera. You need to start showing people how to do shit. BG pushed me too, so thank you too for both doing that, man. I'm hoping to try and find this, turn this into something that I can do full time, where I don't have to go to my job like I did today.
Yeah, because I mean, you got your Patreon network over there. You're part of my Patreon network. I'm part of your Patreon. Like, we're just a bunch of smart Cowboy fans over here ahead of the curve. We're kind of self-sufficient because if you leave it up to the Joneses here, we wouldn't really have much to talk about. We'd be delusional, drinking in our thoughts, probably beating our wives and spouses at home because the Cowboys ain't winning, right? But instead, y'all can hang out and decompress with us here as y'all have seen some of the shows we've done to try to build up some anticipation for the show. This kind of manifested on its own because Bob and I, going back, had just shared, you know, we got to lock a day down. Like, we got to get serious about this. Like, we're kind of, you know, just playing around with it a little bit. Let's make a day out of it, make an hour out of one day of the week and really jam pack some information. And getting back to that information, I mean, it just kind of led to a conversation and it got to high on edibles. You know, I think that's a great segue. What do you think, Bob?
High on edibles. Yeah. I watched it and I was actually pretty impressed by it, man. It's crazy that Mississippi connection involved in it, man. It's real crazy how we had that conversation afterwards and it all came together. But if for any of you folks out there who watched it, man, I'm all about getting information. And it started back when I was a kid, when I first started smoking. What is that? What's in it? Is it just weed? What strain is it? You know, like all those kinds of questions, man. And it came down to edibles. I was kind of afraid, man. I mean, our boy behind the scenes right here, my buddy M-Dub McMoo, can tell you about that one time he fell down in my hallway because we were eating unregulated space pies. I think there were some sort of apple pies that were unregulated like 10 years ago. And he hit the fucking ground because it was probably like 300 milligrams or some shit. But there was a lot of good information in it. And it was really good to see a law enforcement officer in there, somebody, you know, just kind of all different, you know, you got to have all of those different sides when it comes to those documentaries. And I didn't necessarily agree with him saying that legalizing marijuana is going to breed a country of addicts as he drove by 5 billboards for fucking beer and alcohol before he got to that video shoot, I'm sure. But it's one of those things that, you know, if you're not educating yourself, then you're just going to fall and be a statistic like some of the people they put on that. I don't know if you heard that, but there was a kid who jumped off a balcony in Colorado because he was here on vacation and took like 300 milligrams of edibles. And I think another kid shot himself. So there's a lot of stuff that can happen to you that your body does when you take these edibles that you really, really should try and watch this this episode to try and see what it does to your body. They don't really go too deep into it, but they at least explain to you that it's nothing like smoking. And
yeah, the visuals is what got me, you know what I mean? When they show your chest and how it enters your body, you know, versus smoke versus, you know what I mean? I'm a picture kind of guy. I work with your hands, you know what I mean? So it made sense to me. So those that watched it know exactly what we're talking about. And that's what piqued my interest, like, because I have yet to try an edible. As I know you popped yours over there, so we'll get to you in a few minutes to see how you're feeling. But yeah, I became very inquisitive. And then the first time, like I said, when I watched it, it was before we talked about really doing this Square Grouper show. Square Groupers wasn't even really a thought at that point. It was more or less like Cocaine Cowboys, I think. But if you want to know the backstory, you can hit the link over there and check that out on the story. But you know, the edibles, it just grabbed my attention because it's an alternative way. Not everybody wants to, you know, medicate, you know, via inhalation. Some folks want to be more designerish with it, or they want to eat it, or, you know, whatever the case may be. They rather do it in a pen, like, you know, what Bob has over there too. He can share that with you as well. So for veterans, it's basically an alternative. You know what I mean? In a lot of states like Mississippi, who we just talked about, which happened to legalize. So if you don't know the backstory on that conversation Bob and I were having the other day on the show was after watching this, I began to do the research and discovered that, you know, the University of Mississippi has this grow there since the 60s who've been making cannabis and growing cannabis for researchers, for documented research that they say they don't have, right? But that's a whole nother story. So I found that, I was like, man, out of all that's going on, and they just legalized in Mississippi. So as those legislation things are taking place too, we're gonna be talking about a myriad of a lot of other stuff as well. But before I get over to Bob for the veterans, we go into the event section of OAT that's here with us. I posted an article in there, and it's got a digital resources, bunch of digital resources in there like e-benefits, the VA, you know, internet essentials with Comcast. You know what I mean? When I was an employee there, I talk about that. There's some things that I'll refer you to as veterans, especially if you're on active duty. And this is who I'm talking to. If you got about 12 months, this is ideally who I'm talking to, and you're getting ready to transition out of the military. You know what I mean? You want to start getting these things lined up now, so you don't have to experience, you know, the hardships that I had to along the way, figuring out those things that I did. So check that out, and we'll see how you feeling over there on that edible, Bob.
I got to tell you this. We are 27 minutes in, and I am already feeling that shit. Now, I need y'all to understand something. I have some stomach issues that I've been dealing with most of my life, and it causes me to absorb things faster. It causes me to digest things faster. So anything I take, anything I eat is going to hit me faster than most people. Also, I didn't eat a whole hell of a lot today. When I came home, I think I had a rice bowl with some chicken and vegetables and stuff in it. So I didn't eat. I don't eat. I fast for the first 12 hours of my day. So I don't eat breakfast. I don't eat anything when I wake up at 4 a.m. all the way up to 2 o'clock. I fast so that when I do eat, my body is able to break it down correctly when I have my lunch and my dinner. Long ass story short, I'm feeling really good. My eyes are starting to feel real heavy. I can already tell that by the time we decide to clock out of this bitch, I'm going to be having to kind of keep myself a little bit. It's not making me want to go to sleep. I'm sure puffing this commando bud that I'm smoking right now is not going to help that cause either. But
yeah,
that's just the smoker in me. I can't not have this.
Right. So tell us about all the YouTube videos that you know I haven't watched about that you're putting out over there, because you bring a unique perspective here too. I know I'm coming from the veteran perspective, the mental health perspective, the plants over pills perspective, because there's an opioid pandemic that's fucking up people's stomachs and livers, like what Bob's talking about. I don't know if that's a direct correlation, but you know what I'm saying. For those vets that are out there getting the candy from the legal candy man, there's another candy man out there that you can purchase from, and eventually, you know, it's going to work its way to the VA. So stay here with us so we can stay afloat. We're going to be funneling that kind of information to you. You know what I mean?
Corden, I'm happy to see that you're looking to try and get a grow going. You need to ship out to a legal state and turn 21. That's definitely two very important things to do when talking about growing marijuana. You want to be legal and you want to be in a legal place to do it. So I'm glad you got your head on straight with that one. You're right. Intermittent fasting is a lifesaver for GI issues. I've had GI issues all my life, but I'm real happy to hear you're going to think about growing again. For all you folks, and again, we're kind of hitting into a winter time, so it's weird for some people who are even thinking about growing anything right now. Since we're heading into winter time, it's crazy that I'm even asking anyone to kind of grow along with me, especially since we're about to get some serious snow. But this is the thing. I have found out a couple of really, really good ways to make sure that your tent and your atmosphere needs to stay between 60 and 70 to 60 to 80 degrees. I can keep you within that range no matter how fucking cold it is outside. As long as you have a room that's insulated, I can get you to that area. I'm really, really interested in helping out some other folks do their grows for the first time. I just finished my not finished. I'm still in the middle of it, but I'm at the end of it. It's my first indoor tent grow. I've done some grows indoors, but I've done most of my grows outdoors, and I'm really, really interested in helping some of you folks do it as well. It was super easy. I only fed my plants 4 things. It wasn't a big mixture of a bunch of cocktails. It was unsulfured molasses, liquid seaweed. I mean, it was all stuff to feed the microbes in your soil that in turn will feed your plant the energy that it needs to have for photosynthesis. And it's super easy. Most people think that it has to do with a lot of chemicals and all kinds of other stuff. If you've got good light, good airflow, good food, your plants are going to be huge. And I want to see everybody else doing that along with me. So that's really the goal through all of this stuff right now, is making sure that if you're able to grow legally in your state, then I'm going to help you do that to the highest possible degree. Most of the content that I have on my YouTube channel so far hasn't been a whole hell of a lot of grow, because I had thought about doing all this stuff very far into my grow. So I didn't have documentation of germination. I didn't have documentation of seedling stage, mid grow, or anything like that. It was really mid grow until I started doing this. So the next one that I do is going to be fully documented, and I need your help. I'm calling on everybody. If you can, I put the list out on my page of all the seeds that I have. I want you guys to vote and let me know exactly what autoflower strains you want me to grow next time around. This, what I'm harvesting right now, is actually photo period, so it went a full 9 months for growth. But this next set of seeds that I have will take me from seed to harvest in about 3.5 months. So I'm gonna turn to you guys to kind of give me an answer. I'm gonna narrow it down to, I think, about 10 strains, and then you guys are gonna be the ones to let me know what you want me to grow. Hopefully you can grow along with me. That'd be a beautiful thing. That's my aim.
And that's a great segue, because the title today, you know what I mean? I'll just share this with you, just how this kind of works out. Like I said, we didn't plan on streaming today on Veterans Day. It just kind of happened that way. I called Bob the other day. He was like, bro, do you realize we're streaming on Veterans Day? I thought that was kind of cool. One, me being a veteran, talking to the veterans here. But the first notes that I took was the big green rush when I was watching High on Edibles, and that's the title of today's show. And that goes to what Bob's talking about in terms of the growth things, but in terms of growing all things here, not just cannabis. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, I had that phone call coming in, but growing all things cannabis. Man, where was I at?
Oh shit! I'm sorry. I have 4 things going on this one too. We were talking about growing. We were talking about.
I'm sorry, I had a phone call coming in. I was waiting on that call earlier, but now somebody decided to call me. So y'all know how it is anyway. But talking to the veterans in terms of everything that's going on, growing, the big green rush. A lot of folks don't understand the first 2 states. There we go, getting back on track here. Those folks that deal with depression and tinnitus and dementia, shit like that. You know what I mean? Work with me here. When you walk into a room, you're fixing to get with some shit, and you're like, what did I come in here to get? That was that kind of moment. But Washington and Colorado were the 2 first states to legalize, and coming back to that movement, I think it was in 2012 when it started.
Yep.
I mean, and here we are. Bob is in Denver, and I'm up here next to Seattle. So today's title is the Big Green Rush, man. It just kind of worked out that way, that this budding industry that's literally behind the scenes and the algorithms of Facebook right now, you and I, all of us here together, we're literally going to grow here together in so many ways that at some point, we're going to see things change on this platform and in other states as a result.
Yeah, it's definitely the goal of all this. I mean, as we see more states legalize, and I believe it was our producer M-Dub McMoo who sent me that link a few days ago that I posted. I had seen maybe Jay Mackin had already posted it, but that whole the whole legalization of marijuana for Texas has the balls rolling. M-Dub thinks that it's going to get shot down, because it does get shot down so much when it comes to Texas. But I think maybe when you've got a state like Mississippi, a southern state, like you said, that's been growing, and I don't think a lot of people knew this, man. I didn't either until you put the connection together. And I'll give you guys the connection right now. What Barry was speaking about earlier was University of Mississippi growing undercover for the United States since the 60s. Now, undercover, what does that mean? Well, they probably have
growing for researchers. They're growing for research purposes, not the government in particular. There's a key there.
And as we say this, I want you to also understand how many times you've heard somebody tell you we don't have enough research at this point.
Yeah, I found that funny when they said that they've been had it since the 60s. They've been growing it for researchers, but we don't have a lot of research.
Yeah.
That was like when the light bulb went off. Sorry to interrupt.
There's probably like 15 people close to that whole grow that's never bought weed in the last 40 fucking years because of that. But the real insane part of all this was, as Barry was telling you, that my knowledge goes pretty deep for cannabis. I'm starting to think to myself, well, I heard about this strain, one of my favorite strains called G13. And when I started asking the bud tender, why was it called G13? They couldn't tell me what it was called that for. So I had to do a little research. I'm not going to say this is pre-internet days, but it's definitely pre-internet boom days. I was actually trying to find some ideas online and then asking some of the cannabis folks I knew in real life. And they let me know that G13 stood for Government 13. Ooh, that sounds so spooky. Well, what the hell does that mean? Well, apparently someone was told, here, grow the strongest marijuana you possibly can. Do it over about 20 plants and make all the strengths varying, but make them very, very strong. And then we're going to take one of those strains and we're going to start testing it, blah, 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 blah. Now, I don't know how it all came to be that they were only able to choose one, but out of all those 20 plants, one plant and one mother plant alone was kept, and it was marked G number 13. So the 13th plant in this line of quietly and underground grown cannabis that was so extremely strong. The thing was, they wanted to figure out how strong they can make cannabis to use it as a weapon in war. They were going to try and find a way to weaponize cannabis, just like they tried to weaponize LSD in the 60s with MK Ultra. There's a lot of stuff that you can start looking back on the way our country was trying to use drugs as mind control and all this other stuff. So that was the backbone of this. And so when Barry was telling me, there's this, this undercover grow that's been happening in Mississippi, I'm like, shit, I wonder if that has anything to do with G13. Come to find out, that's exactly where that strain came from. So within that episode, you can not only see the stuff that has to do with edibles, you can also go a little bit further and see the folks at University of Mississippi that have been growing this the whole time, and they've been doing it under the watchful eye of America, in the guise of research, whatever the case may be. But G13 came out of this, and I don't know if you folks have ever smoked G13, but dude, that shit is strong. It hits you in the face like a bag of fucking pineapples. And that's pretty much what the whole bud tastes like too. That's where you get strains like Pineapple Chunk and Pineapple Express. They're usually mixed in with G13. So that, I found that to be extremely interesting, man. When you said that, I was like brainstorming. And then you said University of Mississippi. I was like, holy shit, there's no way.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing that stuck out to me was I was just like, they just passed, because Mississippi, they just passed. That's been in our conversation. And I was watching it again when I rewatched High on Edibles again to take notes, because after we started talking about the show, I said, well, let me go back to this. This is a good piece of content that's got some legitimate sources to go back to. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'll share some of those sources with you that was on there. If you go to High Times, hightimes.com, they've been around for a number of years. High Times is actually located out of LA and New York. They got offices there. They've been around since 1974. You know what I mean? You got Weed Week, you know what I mean? That's over there, ran by Alex Halpern. It's been around since 2015. So if you want to know what's going on with the industries, y'all know what I follow. MarijuanaMoment.net. I'm a patron over there. I get the email every 3:30, every morning to find out what's going on. So the more information that you got coming in, especially for the comments, I see some folks up there wishing that, or they desire to grow their own stuff. That's great. Finding the information is the first thing. It's funny because, like they say, you hide a secret, put it in a book. I mean, there's so much information out there. You just got to go look for it. You know what I mean? Some of us are just so distracted with some of the things going on in the world that opportunities are passing us right by. And that's this big green rush we're talking about, man. There's articles that I've shared, in the events. They're calling for folks in the media like what we're doing here, and bloggers and vloggers and things like that? Why do you think we're starting this show here together with you guys, so we can not only grow, but we can catch this wave, you know what I mean, that's getting ready to come in on this industry?
Yeah, and 100% a gigantic portion of the Dallas Cowboy fan base smokes weed. I don't care what you think. We all know this. They're down south. We got a huge Hispanic influx. A lot of my Mexican homeboys in Texas that I knew, they're all weed heads. But there's not a lot of folks that can kind of openly be that way, especially if you're in Texas, even though Texas has some pretty good laws when it comes to marijuana, man. Like we were talking to Starboy and even BG about, how do you feel better when you're at Texas Dallas Cowboy games, when you're actually there? And, it comes down to, like, are you being obvious about it? Are you spitting in the face of a cop by blowing hits in their face? As long as you're being DL about it, you're probably pretty good. And if you do happen to get popped smoking a joint, you're probably not doing time. You're probably not going to jail. Arlington, Texas is actually one of the better places to be if you're going to get popped with weed, because they normally will just kind of write you a ticket.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because, while I was there at the home opener, like, the stigma is still there, even for those of us that don't buy into the stigma no more. It's just we naturally, react to that stimuli. You know what I mean? Like, I was there and I was just like, can I smoke outside? Where do I go? Like, I'm like, totally different at home. I'm at home. You know what I mean? And that's ideal for legal states. They want you in your house. They don't want you obviously driving around or, out in public. You know what I mean? Because, especially if you've never experienced it before, if you don't know what's going on, or you're an abuser to some extent, you know what I mean? But we'll get into those things here. But, you know what I mean? It's just it's a budding industry, and it's crazy to not think of all of the things that's going on right now. If you're sitting in your house in a quarantine, we're locked down like we have been for many of us, you know what I mean? We've been limited, you know what I mean? Your kids are doing this exact same thing we're doing right now on Facebook. You know what I mean? But we're just trying to share the information. So going back to high on edibles, man, I took like 3 pages of notes, and I was just like, there was so much in there. And I was like, I got to get the bottom. I'm like, man, we got to put this on the show. And so look forward to those things here as we bring it from a different perspective, because that's just, University of Mississippi been there. If you go look at their timeline on their website, I went and visited it. And it's just since the 60s before then. You know what I mean? I'm just like, wow, really? And we don't have no research stuff.
Mississippi, man. I mean, look, we all know. I remember when I think of the word Mississippi, I wait for the word burning to come after it, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it does not matter, man. It's like that's a vision that's burned in my head. And so when I hear that they legalize, man, it must be seriously a party out there, especially for that one guy at the end of that documentary who is living out there, who is having to make his own edibles, basically in fear for getting his door kicked in, man. You know what I mean? Like,
and also was a Navy veteran that suffered from, mental health, anxiety. You know what I mean? I think he said he had some stomach issues and stuff like that.
I feel so good for that guy.
He basically had to get in the game himself. You know what I mean?
Which, again, look, that kind of shows you the kind of people that marijuana users are. We're not sitting on the floor fucking scraping through the carpet trying to find pot, man. There's some of the smartest motherfuckers you'll ever come across in your life. And you'll watch this guy who suffered with all kinds of pain and PTSD actually take the initiative to try and find out how to break down cannabis, turn it into a liquid form, and put it in candy or whatever he needs to do so that he can medicate without smoking it and drawing even more attention to himself. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the reason why people do edibles. I think they don't want to have clouds of smoke around them. They don't want to. They can still be part of the stoner culture without being a stoner. So I'm all right with that. I'll give them a pass. Here's your ticket. Take an edible if you want to be part of this crowd. I'm cool with that. As long as you tell people you had a good time and you didn't take 40 of these things and decide to punch your refrigerator all night long, I think we're good. You know what I mean? Like, I want people to have a good association with cannabis, and so many people do. And so many people, there's a few people that don't, but Brandon, you're right. Texas is getting close again. I think J Mac, and I think you were the other person that beat me to that article. I
think we're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with the presidential election. And after that, who's in office, what legislation they're going to tackle when it gets back on track, if it gets back on track. We don't know. There's a lot of stuff at play that's still holding it up for everybody else. But I've seen the same in Texas. If you follow marijuanamoment.net, they're putting out stuff there every day. There's a ton of stuff out there. You can find it. But yeah, you know what I mean? It's going to depend on this legislation. And I think Texas could probably see it next year at some point. You know what I mean? If they, especially if Democrats get in office, if you look at that bill 2227 that was introduced by, Vice President-elect. I can't say her name. Is it Kamala Harris?
Kamala Harris.
Yeah, Kamala Harris. You know what I mean? In July of last year, it was introduced to change everything to the term cannabis, not marijuana or marijuana, and expunge a lot of folks that are locked up because, we're sitting here smoking and talking about it on social media, and there's folks locked up still about it. Like that veteran that was locked up, you seen that went through Alabama. We posted that on the page and recently got out and was fighting that. I mean, it's all kind of craziness going on out there. And so if we're here sharing the information, as long as we're here, we're good. Everybody's going to keep growing.
100% keep growing. Adrian Bond, what's up, man? Glad you could make it. I want to give a shout out to Tamara Lynn too for hanging out. Thank you so much. Is that looks like you got some deadhead stuff going on there in that picture. So I'm just going to say right away, you definitely enjoy cannabis. Is that a steal your face? Is that what that logo is called? I often forget. It was stamped on all the LSD I did as a young man. Made a mistake and ate a 500 milligram Rice Krispie treat. God damn, Adrian.
Oh, 500. Did he say 500?
He said 500. He said 500. That's 500. That's a lot, man.
Bro, that's like THC milligrams, 500?
Yes.
Holy smokes.
That's kind of the problem. You know what? It's funny. You don't hear a lot of the shit.
I don't make it sound like that. The reason why I say that is because I'm thinking, they're telling me start off at 5.
I just took 20.
The doctor told me, yeah, you took 20. That's a little, this guy, you know what I mean? I mean, there's different levels of pain. And that's the other thing is people don't understand pain is invisible. You know what I mean? So whatever dose it takes for you to get your pain taken care of, man, do it.
Well, I will tell you this right now, that 20 milligrams has done a lot. This is usually, and I decided to take this experiment in front of everybody right now because I trust that you guys would, maybe shoot my wife a text if I happen to fall on my keyboard. But it's not going to happen right now. I feel really good for taking the 20 milligrams that I took. I usually take it before I go to bed, and it causes me to not have to flop around. I don't know if I have that restless leg syndrome, whatever the case is. I flop around a lot, and even though I have a new mattress, on top of that, I have lower back issues. So all these things were killing me at the same time, and I'm like, I need to find a way to just lay down for 6 to 7 to 8 straight hours in my bed without flopping around like a fish. And this exact candy that my neighbors made for me has been helping me out immensely during that time. So shout out to C&G. I don't want to throw your names out there because I don't know what your business is all about, but I love you guys to death. Thanks for making this for me. Adrian Bond says he thought he was going to die. And as someone who doesn't know you personally, I can tell you know a lot about weed and smoked a lot of weed in your life. And for you to say that is a testament to how people got to go slow and low when it comes to this shit. You can't fuck around with this, man.
I'm telling you, I'm going to be buying them little bitty nickel ones. You know what I mean? So y'all stick around here because Bob has essentially been my coach. So if you guys don't know, before we even got all this really started in the show and all of that, I got a video, I put it up. Bob actually helped me obtain my medical cannabis card here in the state of Washington, which I thought was probably hard to get. I didn't know. I wasn't interested. I didn't know the benefit. I didn't care because it's legal and I could just walk right in there and buy shit. I didn't have to worry about saving money or knowing why I'm medicating, and I could get more as a result if I had a medical card. So shout out to Bob. So when I burn through the rest of this Chem Dog that I got here at 30%, I'm going to get an edible. And, we're going to try that here. I wanted to do my research. And for those, that are joining us here, if you're partaking, that's great. And if you're not, some folks that have a stigma about that, hang around here too and see what you can learn and maybe try to remove that stigma. Because I always try to say there's 2 different types of operating systems out there. And y'all know what they are. You got Android and you got iPhone, right? Well, that's kind of like Cowboy fans. You got 2 of them out there where they all operating in the game. Some refuse to receive new updates. You know what I mean? So when you refuse to receive new updates and downloads overnight, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't operate at maximum value. You feel me?
That was a nice analogy right there, man. Pretty slick. Jay Mackin says he's been eating edibles for years. I didn't. I don't know why, but also because if you think about it, back when I was younger, which was a long time ago, we weren't necessarily putting our cannabis in pantyhose and extracting it the correct way. We were chopping that shit up in a fucking coffee bean grinder probably and dumping it right into a brownie mix. The exact opposite of the way you're supposed to do it. You definitely want to pull the cannabis, the cannabinoids and everything out of the plant and get rid of the plant matter so it doesn't affect the taste. You're still going to have a little bit of taste because of the terpenes that you take out of your plant. But if you extract it correctly, it won't taste like you just bit a giant bud covered in chocolate. And back then we didn't have any regulations. Just like Cal will tell you, below. When you eat a 200 milligram fucking apple pie bar, it doesn't matter how hardcore you are, dude. Your body.
I'm not laughing at you, Bob.
What's that?
I'm not laughing at you. I'm not even laughing at Jay over there. I can just understand what he's talking about because I had an episode like that with my spouse when it came to alcohol. You know what I mean? And you know, it's folks as bad as the stigma it is out there on weed. You know, I wish folks worried about folks who drank as much as they worried about folks who smoked. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Amen, man. I don't say
the world will be a safer place and we wouldn't have as many drunk driving accidents, you know what I mean? And I speak from experience that I caught a DUI up here years ago in Washington State. You know what I mean? It scared me straight. I never drank and drove after that fact.
Good for you, man. That's not usually the way it goes. People that I know that have gotten DUIs have wound up getting another DUI because that's sort of just the way they are. But I'm glad you got it. I'm glad that you learned, man. It's definitely terrifying. I know there's been times when I've been driving under the influence of multiple things that I should not have been driving. And I thank whoever is the puppet master up there for getting me through that night.
Bro, the $5,000 lawyer fucking bill was enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I want to go ahead and touch on something real quick with you folks. Okay. If you or your friend or even maybe your 16-year-old child has taken edibles and maybe taken a little bit too much, please think twice about calling the ambulance and taking them to the hospital. Don't do that shit. I mean, look here, and let me explain to you what's going to happen, okay? At the very most, your child, you or your friend is going to have your stomach pumped in order to get that stuff taken out. At that point, it doesn't matter. It's already in your bloodstream. You've already absorbed it into your body. So, you're going to spend $2,000 for a charcoal to make yourself vomit that you could probably do at your house with your finger. And B, you're probably going to have to take an ambulance ride. That's another $1,300. There's a lot of stuff that happens when it comes to this stuff. The knowledge of what it does to your body is going to help you when it comes to realizing what you need to do in a situation where you might have taken too much. Normally, a shower and a little bit of a nap is going to resolve everything for you because there's nothing you can put in your body in order for you to not feel what you are feeling if you happen to take too much edibles. It's just, I hate to say the words too late, but it really is at that point. I mean, if you take 20 milligrams, I don't feel it in 5 minutes. You take another 20, I don't feel it. And you pile that on, that's going to be a problem and you're not going to feel great. But I don't recommend calling the hospital, man. It's just too much money for a person to make fun of you and put you on a list and take a video of you when you don't know about it saying, look, this is what happens when people who don't take edibles take edibles.
If they watch the high on edibles and that that lady in Oregon that talked about that's in a medical center because they bring her specifically to her because they've got a lot of that going on not a lot, but compared to everywhere else in Oregon, a lot to one person is a lot different to somebody else. You know what I mean? But they talk about that. So there is a lot of ramifications like what he's talking about that come behind that, and I would be very careful. And that's for both you and I, both Bob, in terms of medical guidance and things like that, because that's one of the things that they talked about us on here. Specifically, you know what I mean, in terms of how our language is, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, look, use your own judgment, man. If you feel like you've got to go to the emergency room, just understand that when you do that, it costs a lot of freaking money. Yeah. It's not like you see on the television where you wake up in a room with a lollipop and some sherbet next to you and you're cured.
First of all, as a fucking parent, put the shit away where the fucking kids can't find it. Yeah. Can't fucking solved.
Let's go. You're right. Good way to, as a parent, way to go way before. I don't have kids, so I didn't even start at the beginning of that conversation. Very smart way to be a father and pull it all the way back to the beginning.
You know that now. You know better now. Do better. If you've seen the shit, then know if you're gonna do it, don't leave it around with your kid. Hell, my fucking 3-year-old would think it was candy. It looks like candy. They made laws around that you can't even make that shit look like candy because they was making it look like candy so they could sell more of the shit. Feel me?
Yeah, and I don't really feel like they were okay. Well, maybe I'm being naive by saying I don't feel like they were purposely marketing it to young people because the candy that they were marketing it to was all candy from the stuff that we grew up eating. You know what I mean? Like I understand Runts and all that shit, but Willy Wonka, Skittles and stuff like that. That's not new candy, man. You know what I mean? So I still feel like they were marketing it to people who were legal, and it was just more attractive to people like us who was eating that candy as kids. But I'm sure there are people out there, but a legal mainstream cannabis company is not going to be targeting young children. There's enough adults out there to make their fucking money. Do you know what I mean? So it was smart that they definitely put some of those rules into play because it does resemble children's candy at some point.
Yeah, man. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out so you guys know what we're talking about. You know what I mean? That was kind of homework. So for those of y'all that are the usual suspects that hang around with us here as we put that out, we're going to be creating these events in OAT to aggregate that information. And that way you could also come back to it at a later point. So that's why I posted that link in there with that article that's got a bunch of those digital resources for veterans like e-benefits. You know what I mean? My video for you to how to get a medical card like we talked about is right there. You can watch it. And if you didn't know, I'll be posting all of my cannabis content from Medium. You guys know I run OAT over there. That's all cowboy stuff related. We're not going to saturate it with cannabis over there because we got some folks that haven't bought into it all the way, even though we're sharing it in the group. But all of my content will be over there at Medium. So when you see that come up on there, you know where that's from. Download the app for like $5 a month. You can get on there. There's a lot of great stuff you can read. And as I was telling you about those two different types of operating systems, like the iOS and the Android, you know what I mean? You got to read some shit sometimes besides Facebook.
Okay. We got Crystal hanging out in the background. She's been hanging out in the background since the beginning of all this. But in the in our comments section, the backdoor comments section here, yeah, she said she's working still. all good. That's cool. What's up? She said, yes, don't do it. I worked in the emergency. You know, and again, I'm not telling you to not take care of yourself. I'm just saying don't think that going there is going to help you out any further than you could probably help your own self out with maybe some milk and a warm bath and a calming voice. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe some music. Maybe you flip on my Spotify channel called Audible Xanax and listen to some of the greatest songs from the 70s and 80s and just kick back and relax. There's a lot of stuff you can do.
Once they what's high on edibles, and you see that diagram of when you consume or when you eat edibles versus when you smoke, you will automatically know the difference if you haven't already. You know what I mean? It's totally different. I think that's part of the reason why I haven't done that, because I think to an extent I was like, I don't want to have no weird out experience and, you know, be around my kids and shit. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking, let me get some advice. So I'm just glad to have, you know, Bob here to be able to coach me and coach us, you know, because I mean, I'm not going to eat 5, be like, oh, that ain't hitting me. And then 50 later, I'm like, ugh. You know what I mean? So just be responsible, be an adult. You know what I mean? I think for veterans, you know what I mean? That can kind of go both ways. But for the most part, you know what I mean? We're pretty safe and responsible. And as an alternative, you know what I mean? It's a less frowned upon way, I guess, of dealing with, you know, whatever it is you're dealing with medically, based on whatever kind of input you can get from your doctors. You know, we're not going to give you any specific medical advice here. You know, folks treat your own stuff how you treat it. But, you know, we all understand that, you know, cannabis is a form of medication. It can be considered medication. There is some anecdotal research out there that says it is otherwise versus, you know, the folks that don't want to believe it. And again, iOS and Android.
That's the truth. So listen, real folks, we got 12, 13 people on right now. Do me a real quick favor. Sorry, that edible is really starting to kick my tooth in. Let me know where you guys are listening from, what page you guys are at. If you're on YouTube, I can tell that. But on Facebook, if you are in my profile or in my fan page, or if you're in OAT, do me a favor, drop something in the comments real quick and let me know. I got to try and gauge a couple of things real quick. We got a Facebook user here who says edibles kick my butt. They're kicking mine right now. Like I said, 20 milligrams. I'm usually really good about thinking about what I say before I say it. But right now that wall has sort of fallen. And I'm certainly not coming off as smooth in real life as I am in my head.
Well, it's all right, man, because we're cranking down here. We got about a minute left, you know what I'm saying? And it's Roger Dak, you know what I mean? So those are veterans that are out there, you know, you've heard that term Roger that before. So if you've seen that video that's floating around today of Roger Staubach and you didn't know, you know, he was a Navy dude too, you know what I mean? So that's kind of like a play on words. See that? What side is over there? Roger Dak. You know what I mean? So how do veterans respond? You know what I'm saying? In the month of November, because NFL is salute to service, baby. And that's what we doing here. We serving all the cannabis folks out there, no matter what team you from. We all America's team in terms of the veterans. You know what I mean? So you got any parting words of wisdom before we get out of here today, Bob, on the big green rush?
I tell you what, man, I'm happy we had about 15, 16 people come and hang out with us today. Thank you so much. We've got some other things lined up for the future shows, but as of right now, anybody that's interested in trying to get a grow going together, just let me know. You hit me up in DM, whatever you have to do. Follow my pages. I'm going to be going over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to start harvesting some of my plants. So a lot of that footage is going to pop up. You'll get to see not only my harvest, but then how I cure it. And then sometime around maybe Christmas or maybe after that, I don't know, I might be able to smoke a little bit of that. I'm going to take a long time to cure this particular grow. So other than that, thank everybody for showing up, all my patrons. If anybody has a little bit of extra room to kind of help me out, go ahead and visit my Patreon page, Cannabis Cowboy. I'd really appreciate it. Go check out my YouTube page, Cultivating with the Cannabis Cowboy. Like and subscribe if you can. Just show a lot of support if you can. And trust me, ask the folks who are patrons right now. They're probably really happy with a lot of the stuff I've been sending them. And I'll get back with you all about all that too. So
yeah, if you've been hanging out with us on Facebook, man, I got one of these left. I got a bunch of stuff that I'm sending out. I'm glad Bob said that before we wrap it up. I got a bunch of stuff going out to patrons here. I got one of these stickers left for America's Team. If you're on Facebook and been following us, do me a favor, leave us a review on the page of what you thought about today's show. Go up there and leave us a 1 through 5 star review and tell us what you thought about. The first person that can go over there and give us a pretty good review, like in, you know what I mean, some good text, you know what I mean, appreciate that. We'll get your address and I'll send this out to you, man. Thanks.
Show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, nice to see y'all. Happy Veterans Day. Thanks for showing up. Sarah, Jay, Adrian, Andrew, Tamara, everyone who hangs out. Thank you so much for chilling out with us, guys. As usual, exactly, J-Mac. Keep it growing, or as I always say, keep growing. Thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen.